All
We're
right.
live.
Yay.
Okay. Hello,
Yay.
everybody.
Hi.
All right. So we're going to start off with discussing the videos about the flipped classroom and what we found for ourselves, and then Katie will present her lesson, and then we'll wrap it up for the night from there. So, would anybody like to go first?
I can.
Okay.
Let me pull up my notes here. Uh, so, one of the ones that I watched was, hang on, I forget the title now. It was the hands-on learning one. What did So there was the hands-on learning, and it basically talked about engaging all of your students, and then and it worked with all subjects. And then what was the huge benefit that I saw was that they can go at their own pace. And then it was called Is Flipping for Everyone. Sorry. And it basically outlined why flipping can work and how it works for everyone. And what I took from it was the going at your own pace and hands on, and then working. It can work for all subjects depending on how you do it. So I thought that was really cool, and it just gets your students to engage a lot more. And then the other video that I watched was Overcoming Common Hurdles. So it outlined all the things that you can do to make flipping successful. So it was make sure all students have access to the content. So knowing that maybe one of your students doesn't have a computer at home, and then printing it off for them beforehand, or figuring out how to accommodate each student, and making sure everyone can access all the content. And then teach them how. I think sometimes we assume that kids these days just know how to go onto YouTube and search for their own video, and can we just say watch this video instead of teaching them how to watch the video. Also depending on your age group of students. And then it talked a lot about safeguards and how to keep your students engaged. And then the huge thing that it stressed was holding kids accountable. So even though your student might not do your homework, keep them in at recess and figure out, hold them accountable to what they're supposed to be doing. Um, and then they talked about, not everyone's going to be perfect, um, and then one of the ideas that they had was creating your own videos, and it talked a lot about how teachers can create their own videos that the students can watch on their own time at home. And they were talking about that might be nerve-wracking or whatever, but they showed how helpful that is. And then also you can start small with the flipping lessons. So scalable, you can just start with doing it for just math or just whatever, and just pacing it yourself and figuring it out as you go. So starting small was really good. And then I watched one on formative assessment, and that was just teachers checking in with their students and getting feedback from each student, and then just customizing the learning for each individual. So yeah, that's
Um,
what I got.
I watched that Overcoming Hurdles video too,
Mhm.
and I thought it was really helpful because it did lay out the steps, like having access, so creating flash drives that they could use at home or DVDs, and
Yeah.
maybe putting in grants for iPads that they can
Yeah.
rent out and stuff. And it gave a bunch of different ideas for how to watch. What I got out of that was like teach them how to interact with the videos in a meaningful way, like in a thoughtful way, rather than just watching it like a movie or something, but like interacting with it, which went along with like the UDL toolkit about how you can put questions in the video to pause and help them think about the video. And
for as they go along.
yeah, and then they also made a suggestion about, it said 1 to 1.5 minutes per grade level. So if they're like a 4th grader, then the video should be 4 to 6 minutes long. And then they said it's better to have more short videos than one very long video. And for safeguards, like Emily was saying, they definitely stressed hold them accountable. And with the flipped classroom, it's you do your homework in the classroom. So while everybody else is doing their homework in the classroom, getting their help, then that student who didn't do their homework or who didn't watch the videos at home is taking the in-class time to watch the videos while everybody else is getting help with their homework. And then definitely said, your videos don't have to be perfect. Don't spend every hour working on making your video the absolute perfect, because that's really, if you're teaching this lesson in a classroom, it's not going to be perfect like that, where you get to redo everything to make it look good to the kids, and you want the kids to know, like, you're still a teacher, you make mistakes, and it's a lesson, just as if it were a lesson in the classroom. And then to start small, like, you don't have to flip the whole classroom right away. You can flip certain lessons in the classroom. If you find that students are struggling with a certain, like, science, then maybe one science lesson, flip that and see how that works, instead of trying to take off on the whole class at one time and flip the whole thing. Definitely start small. So that video definitely helped in understanding, like, because when I was watching the other assigned videos, it brought up a lot of questions, like, well, what if this happens, and what if this happens? And so this video answered all those questions and provided solutions of what you can do if that does happen.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, you're good. Keep going.
Oh, okay. I also watched the video of this teacher explaining why she chose to flip her classroom, which was really interesting from an actual teacher's perspective of why she liked this flipped classroom. And she said before, it used to be her classroom would be 90% instruction and only 10% application. So the students weren't really getting that independent practice that we saw in, like, our lesson plans. And I noticed that when I created my lesson plan, I was like, I'm doing a lot of explaining, and then the independent practices didn't seem very long. So so I was able to see that in my, because according to the lesson plan, it says you should, like, spend at least 50% on the independent practice, but with how my lesson plan would have gone, I don't think it would have taken 50% of the lesson for independent practice. Most of it was spent me just talking about it. And then when she flipped her classroom, she found that only 10% of the in-class time was dedicated to instruction, and then the 90% was the application of students being able to apply what they learn and ask questions about it. Because I don't remember if it was in this video or a different video, they're talking about they got an interview from a parent, and the parent was like, yeah, I mean, at home, there's only so much that I can do to help my student if they don't understand the homework. And so at least if you're doing the homework in the class, you have the teacher to help you out, instead of asking your parents who aren't there for the lesson, so they don't know maybe like they were taught a different way than how the student is being taught now. So, and it helps, she found that it helped reach her her three groups of students, the lower level and the higher level and the middle level, because it was more individualized, so it could be more challenging for the higher level students and challenging for the lower level students. So it reached all of her students instead of only reaching the middle students, because she found before that the lower students weren't understanding, so they weren't engaged, and then the higher students were not engaged because they were, it wasn't stimulating for them. They already knew it, so she was only reaching a certain part of her class, and then this way she was able to reach all of her students. Yeah.
Well, one of the first videos I watched, and I always think about when I hear the flipped classroom, is the TED Talk, Salman Khan, where he's talking about Khan Academy. And he explains so well why it helps. And I think one of the best things that he said was actually towards the very beginning, where he says his cousins preferred the automated version of him because they could rewind, because they could repeat, because they could go back, to 4 months ago to something they totally forgot and not feel embarrassed for asking what it was and having to review it. The only, and I'm getting this from our little discussion prompts, when it talks about what are the potential downfalls of doing this. When you make a video, and just like the problems I have with a lot of online classes, there's only one way to really be accessing the information. So if I don't understand the key point of the video, I have to wait until the next day when I'm in a class in the middle of an activity, that everyone is expected to already know how to do, and then ask how to do it or what it's talking about because I didn't get it, and it could be the way something was said, it could be, but if you don't understand the very beginning, it just kind of dominoes. So you're not going to understand any of the lessons. So right. I would say that could be one potential downfall, specifically for people who are not auditory processors or, can't just get it that way, who need to have that feedback. So, and then the other one I watched, and I can't remember his name, again, it was another teacher, and he talks about the benefits of flipping his classroom, but he talks about how it benefits you as a teacher. By making a video, you're able to go back and look at the lesson that you would have been teaching before you even give it to your students. You're able to kind of analyze yourself before you put it out there, so you can eliminate things that are too repetitive or clarify things that didn't come across the way you thought they were going to. And yeah, so that was, I put the links in the handouts just so you could find it. But that was the major thing I took from his video, was that it is a really helpful teaching tool as well. Even if you're not ready to flip your classroom, you can use it to kind of assess yourself.
Yeah. And like kind of what Katie mentioned, the hurdles of the flipping classroom and watching the videos is, yeah, I think I work with kids that have, learning disabilities, some severe, some light, and I think, man, there's no way they're going to be able to do this at home. And so I can see, or if, the kids have a really bad home life, like there's always all those situations that you have to think about. Do they have internet? Yes, they can do it at school. Or if they have poor attendance, and just so many things that you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about doing that. But I watched 2 lessons being taught the flipped way. So I watched 2 videos that teachers had
Oh.
made, and one was math, and one was a figurative language lesson. And so they were really interesting because with the figurative language lesson, she took, onomatopoeia and hyperbole and all those, alliteration, and she connected it to something that they would understand, uh, Katy Perry's Firework song, and she did all those things. Yeah, I know. The pausing, she said, okay, pause here. I want these in your notebook. I'm going to check your notes tomorrow, so bring everything and be prepared. And I thought it was kind of it's a cool way to get that tedious task out of the way ahead of time, so the next day you can just kind of jump into it, go into depth more about what these are, what they really entail, talk more about the definition, explore more examples, rather than just, okay, today's vocabulary, boom, boom, boom. And it gives the teacher, I think, a little bit more flexibility, and it gives the kids more of that self-regulation, like UDL talks about. And that's kind of how the math one was too. She gave the formulas at the beginning of the lesson and kept them on the board the whole time so they were visible to the kids, or the kids watching the video. And she went through several examples of each type of the formulas, and um, then prepared the kids. Okay, tomorrow in class we will be using these, so bring questions, bring these examples, so we can talk about them and go over them. And I thought it's something I'd never seen, and I thought, wow, this could really be beneficial to a lot of kids, not all kids, but to a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it's a neat way to, like Claire said, to reach all learners. You're not just teaching to one specific group, you're teaching to every group. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting topic this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I really liked the pacing it yourself too, because they would go into groups and then each student could go at their own pace, and
Yes.
that was like really helpful, I thought, for all the students that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I know sometimes I'd like teachers I'd like to rewind them and replay all what they said and rewind them again and replay them. So that's kind of a cool technique to use so kids can maybe retain a little bit more information. If this is a way that they learn, if they are auditory learners. So
Yeah.
okay. Anybody else have anything? Or Katie, are you ready?
Oh, as I'll ever be.
Alrighty.
Okay, so just a brief kind of preface to this, kind of like we did for our other lesson plan. I did this based off of the 5th grade course standard. So I am going into this with an assumption that my class has already learned area and they know their shapes really well. So things like rectangles, they know what that is. I don't have to re-explain that. And we probably have just finished going over area and talking about why it's squared. Like when we're talking about, those that notation, how we say, it's X amount of feet squared, why it is that. So that's my imaginary classroom. They already know that. But we do review it at the beginning, so. All right. So the objective of this lesson is to be able to look at a problem and to pull out of it those key numbers that you need to build the equation for volume, and then solve it using our multiplication and addition facts. So we're going to walk through it all together, and it'll be great. So first off, I want to teach you some key words that go with volume. So what do you guys think of when you hear the word volume? Anybody, it's okay.
I think of like a bigger space. I don't know.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
I know.
So volume in math means the amount of space inside of a solid object. So a cube, a pyramid, a sphere, ... It's the amount of space inside of that. So when we look at, say, a shoebox, the volume of 2 shoeboxes is going to be double the volume of 1 because there's double the amount of space. Yes? All right. Another word that we all need to know is cubed or cubic. And we're going to talk about what that means. But first, we kind of want to review how it all works. So who remembers what we do to find area? Does anybody remember that one?
Base
Base
times
times length, or yeah.
Yeah, length times width, right? So we're going to put it up on our board here. So when we have a number like, or sorry, a length like 8 feet, it doesn't need to have any of our exponents up here because it's just 8 feet by itself. There's only one number. When we add another number, like 4 feet, now we have 2 numbers going into it, which will turn it into our square. So we all of a sudden need our squared symbol. When we add height, which is what we're going to do today for volume, we are adding a third number, which is why for all of our volume answers, we're going to add a 3 after our unit of measure. So in this case, it would be a 3 after the feet. So that tells us how many dimensions or numbers went into getting that answer. Does anybody have any questions on that? Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that 3 means we've taken our flat square and we've turned it into a cube. So it's whatever number cubed, or it is the cubic. So we're going to erase that, and we're going to move on to looking at a problem. So first of all, let's just review really quick our surface area. And I'm going to give you all a little handout here. It should look like this. Ooh, ah. So let's look at this first one together. It says, Pete's backyard is 21 yards long by 48 feet wide. So I'm going to draw it. We're going to do 21 feet long by 48 feet wide. Okay, and we're going to make it a square because we've got our 2 numbers. That makes it squared, right? Okay, so what is the area of Pete's backyard? And you can go ahead and use your calculators. I'm not testing you on how to multiply. But how do we set that up? What should it look like when we're making our special equation for area? Does anyone remember? So area someone just said it before when we were talking about it. It's
Length
Length
What?
times width.
Yes. Length times width. So in this case, it would be 21 times 48, which gives us, who has it?
1,008.
1,008. What is our unit of measure? Who remembers what that means? Where would we find it in this problem?
Would be
You
the
know?
feet. Would be feet.
Yes. Excellent. It is feet. And are they just feet, or are they feet what?
Square.
Squared. So we need to put our little square up here, right? Okay. So that is the base of finding volume. Volume, you all ready for this? We're just going to add one little section. And I'm going to erase all this only because I don't have room. If it was a real classroom, I would have room. Okay. So area is length times width. For volume, we're going to do length times width again. Okay, we're going to get that answer. And then we're going to do it times height. Who remembers what these little parentheses mean? Does anyone know?
That's what comes first.
Yes. So we're going to do this first. We're always going to find our area and then multiply it by the height. And that will equal our volume, or how much space is in the whole thing. Does anyone have any questions so far? Or are we good? We're safe?
Doing good.
Move on. Okay. So now we're going to go to the next problem. And what we're going to do is I'm going to read it, and we're going to pick out the key details and decide where they go in our equation. You ready? Miss Smith wants to know the volume of her shoebox. It has a base of 8 inches, a height of 4 inches, and a width of 1 inch. What is the volume? So, let's find first, let's look for our length. Who can find the length in this question? Does it say length anywhere?
No. Base.
No. Nicole is right, yes, but whoever just said base, and I couldn't pick it up on my video. Correct. So sometimes we use the word base instead of length, but that is what it means. So what is our base or our length in this problem?
8.
8 what?
8 inches.
Inches. Lovely. Who can tell me what our width is?
1 inch.
Our width is 1 inch. Perfect. All right. So let's start here because we know we're going to do this part first, right? We're going to find our area. So quick, what's 8 times 1?
8.
8. And it's going to be 8 what? Inches what?
Squared.
Squared, yes. All right. Now who can find me the height?
4 inches.
4. Lovely. So now we're going to multiply our 8 inches square, so our area of our flat square, by our 4 inches tall. So who can do 8 times 4 really quick?
32.
Yes. So we're going to do 32 inches. And using our cool new vocabulary, what is it? What is the word or what is the number that comes after that now that we've made it from a flat little square to something that's 3D or you could put stuff in? Does anyone remember what it's called? Yes, cubed. And what does that look like? in our notation when we're doing it?
3.
3. Yes. And that's because we put how many numbers into it? 1, 2, 3. We did length times width times height. So there's 3 numbers that made it a 3D box. All right. So now that we've done that, I'm going to let you guys work with a partner next to each other. I have given you some cubes so that you can sort out these problems. If you're having a little bit of trouble writing it out, go ahead and build it. If it says it's 2 by 3, put 2 cubes by 3, and then build it up by, another 2. So stack them up on top. And side note again, I was going to use Legos, but I couldn't find enough. So anyways, so go ahead and build it and then count how many are in there to check your answer. And you can see how many would fit inside those numbers, those dimensions. And then you will have your volume. And it'll be lovely. Okay, and then after this, I would be walking around, helping kids build them, helping explain, no matter what your unit of measure is, as long as it's the same, it's always going to be that cubed. And we would, keep talking about how, okay, we took it from one layer of cubes or that flat little square to a whole building or a whole box or whatever it is in the problem. But we would be working on that. And then, what did I say? Oh, yes. They would all have calculators during this whole time because, as we saw, like in that one science lesson, computation is not our goal. That's not what we're working on. So just let them work through it so that they can see how it builds up. And then to follow up as far as the assessment at the end, I would, hopefully be getting in unison answers. But I usually ask for a show of hands so that the same people don't yell out and I can see who doesn't actually get it. So I would ask, why do we use that little number 3? What does that mean? As well as what the 3 numbers stand for. Are they just 3 random numbers? No, it's, length times width times height. It's not this length and then another length and then another, so that way they can really see and start to understand what those 3 different aspects were. So yeah, that was my lesson on volume. Yay!
All right.
I do have a question real fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, I don't know, like, you said 5th graders, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know at a 5th grade level, or if this is wrong to teach in a lesson, but for, like, the cubed thing, like, would it throw them off to say, like, inches times inches times inches, and that's cubed? Like, have they not learned that yet, or?
Well, you could say that, but what if you have centimeters?
Like, with inches? Like, centimeters with inches?
Yeah,
Or...
I was trying to make it more broad so that they wouldn't get stuck in a rule.
Okay.
I don't know that that's necessarily correct.
Yeah.
But you have to, that gets into conversion, and I was trying to keep it honed in on just figuring out we're adding another layer to our multiplication because the standard itself was volume using multiplication and addition so that we know, okay, we're going to go here. And I stuck to the multiplication. If I was doing the addition, I was also going to do a segment on, okay, here's the square feet or the square inches or whatever of our flat little square. What would it be if we added another layer? and we added another layer, and we added another layer. So we have 4 layers. So they could see it using addition, and they could also see it using the multiplication. But again, I didn't go into that. You totally could, and maybe that's a better way to start it. But yeah, I focused on the multiplication in mine. And then from there, especially for your accelerated kids, you could definitely say, okay, now convert it. This one's in feet, but it's 4 inches tall. So how many inches cubed is it? And you could say, okay, now you have to convert those 2 feet that it is long. Like say you're pouring a patio. You have to convert those 2 inches or 2 feet long into the 24 inches by the couple inches tall. And that's how many inches cubed.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I think that's just the next step.
Okay.
I wouldn't say, though, that it's too much for 5th graders to understand, because even the class that I was working in was going into all of these things, and that was last semester at the beginning of the year. So,
Okay.
All right, so everybody's good. Any more questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. Alrighty. I will post the link to the notes, the right one this time.
wait,
And-
so I'm really curious. How are you posting the link? Because it goes through my YouTube. So how do you have access to the link you're able to, you know what I'm saying?
So yeah, so let me think how I got that. I went back to the Google Hangouts where it shows the video, where you can press play and watch the video over again, and then that's how I get the shareable link.
Okay.
So, or if you want to post
I
it,
just take it off of my video manager in YouTube, because it gives me a shareable link that way too.
okay.
And that's what I did that first week.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I just was curious. I've wondered how you've done it the last couple times. I'm like, oh, cool.
Well, yeah, and I had to kind of go and play with it, because I'm like, I thought it was the link that it gives you right afterwards. Well, no, that wasn't it. And so so I went back and figured it out somehow.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah.
I'll figure it out again.
Okay.
So, okay. All right, ladies, we will meet again on Tuesday, and it'll be my turn to teach.
Absolutely. It'll be
Good
great.
luck.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.